In March 2023, Zoom quietly updated its terms of service. The new language gave Zoom a perpetual, worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free, sublicensable, and transferable license to use your meeting content for machine learning and AI training. The change was made in March, but concern only spiked months later when a post on Hacker News highlighted that the changes appeared to give Zoom unbounded rights to use content to train its AI systems. Your meetings, your strategy sessions, your salary negotiations, your medical appointments, your therapy calls, all of it, potentially usable to train artificial intelligence without your knowledge, without your consent. And here's the part that makes it worse. The host of the meeting has the option of enabling or disabling AI summary, but the other participants don't. If the host, who could be their boss or a highly coveted client, chooses to accept the meeting summary option, a participant who needs to hold on to their job is highly unlikely to be able to drop out of the meeting, citing privacy concerns. Your boss turned on the AI feature. Your data is now Zoom's data, and you had no vote in that decision. But that's not even where the Zoom privacy story begins, because before the AI scandal, Zoom had already lied to you about the most fundamental security promise it ever made. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to 2019, before COVID, before lockdowns, before Zoom became a verb. Zoom's user base skyrocketed from 10 million daily meeting participants in December 2019 to 300 million in April 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, 10 million to 300 million in 4 months. That is the fastest adoption of any communication tool in human history. Not years, not months, weeks. And it happened because the world had no choice. Offices closed overnight, schools closed overnight, hospitals moved appointments online, therapists moved sessions online, job interviews moved online, funerals moved online. Zoom became the infrastructure of human connection during the most isolating event in a generation. People trusted it with things they had never trusted any software with before. Medical consultations, legal advice, mental health sessions, corporate strategy, government briefings. The COVID-19 pandemic made Zoom a verb as it became a popular video conferencing choice for remote work and learning, as well as happy hours, parties, weddings, holiday celebrations, live performances, and political campaigns. And the reason people trusted it, the reason doctors used it for patient consultations and lawyers used it for privileged conversations, was because Zoom told them it was safe. Zoom prominently touted its end-to-end AES 256-bit encryption for all meetings. On its website, in its app, in security guides, and in direct communications with potential customers. End-to-end encryption, the gold standard of digital privacy. The same protection used by Signal, the promise that only you and the people in your meeting could see what happened inside it. It was a lie. Like and subscribe, because next we're covering Amazon Alexa, the smart speaker sitting in your living room that Amazon employees were actively listening to. If Zoom made you uncomfortable, Alexa will make you look at your kitchen differently. In its complaint, the FTC alleged that since at least 2016, Zoom misled users by touting that it offered end-to-end, 256-bit encryption to secure users' communications, when in fact it provided a lower level of security. Let's be specific about what that means. Real end-to-end encryption means only the people in the room can access the content. Not the platform, not the servers, not the company, only the participants. In reality, the FTC alleges, Zoom maintained the cryptographic keys that could allow Zoom to access the content of its customers' meetings and secured its Zoom meetings with a lower level of security than promised. Zoom held the keys. That means Zoom could open the door. And the doctors, the lawyers, the therapists, the corporate executives, all of them used Zoom for conversations they believed only the room could hear, because Zoom told them the room was sealed. Zoom's misleading claims gave users a false sense of security, especially for those who used the platform to discuss sensitive topics such as health and financial information. In meetings people believed were end-to-end encrypted, that were not. The FTC also alleged that Zoom stored some meeting recordings unencrypted on its servers for up to 60 days, despite claiming those recordings were encrypted immediately after the meeting ended. So not only was the live meeting less secure than promised, the recordings of those meetings were sitting unencrypted on Zoom's servers for 2 months after you thought they were safely locked away. In November 2020, the Federal Trade Commission announced a settlement with Zoom over misleading security claims, including its promises of end-to-end encryption. The settlement required Zoom to implement a security program, stop misrepresenting its practices, submit to biennial security audits. Financial penalty? $0. Dissenting commissioners said Zoom's punishment fell far from fitting the crime. 4 years of lying about encryption. No fine, just a promise to do better. The encryption lie was just the beginning of what 2020 brought. In March 2020, Zoom was caught sending user data to Facebook, which violated user privacy agreements. Users who had never created a Facebook account, who had specifically avoided Facebook because of its data practices, were having their Zoom usage data sent to Facebook anyway, without being told. Then came Zoom bombing. Zoom bombing involved unauthorized users accessing highly sensitive government meetings. meetings and disrupting online classes. The FBI issued a warning about classroom hijacking on March 30, 2020, due to the severity of these cases. Children in online school, government briefings, therapy sessions, all vulnerable to uninvited intruders because of security gaps Zoom hadn't closed. In early April 2020, cybersecurity firms began to notice large batches of Zoom credentials for sale on dark web forums. Over 500,000 Zoom accounts were compromised via credential stuffing. 500,000 accounts sold for $0.02 each. Zoom was also criticized for traffic routing through data centers in China, which involved geopolitics and national security concerns. So by April 2020, just weeks into the pandemic, the platform carrying the world's most sensitive communications was routing some of those calls through China, had admitted to sending data to Facebook, had been caught lying about its encryption, had 500,000 accounts sold on the dark web, and was being Zoom bombed in classrooms, and people kept using it because they had nowhere else to go. Zoom spent 2020 and 2021 rebuilding trust. They implemented real end-to-end encryption. They fixed the Facebook data sharing. They patched the Zoom bombing vulnerabilities, and slowly the reputation recovered. Zoom became the standard again, the default tool for remote work, telemedicine, education, and professional life. Then in March 2023, Zoom made a quiet change to its terms of service. The change to Zoom's terms and conditions, made quietly in March, granted the company perpetual, worldwide, non-exclusive, royalty-free, sublicensable, and transferable license, and all other rights to your content, for the purposes of machine learning, artificial intelligence, training, testing, and other projects. Nobody noticed. For 5 months, a clause added to Zoom's legalese back in March 2023 grabbed attention in August after a post on Hacker News claimed it allowed the company to use customer data to train AI models with no opt-out. No opt-out. For meeting content that included medical consultations, legal discussions, HR conversations, salary negotiations, mental health sessions. The backlash was immediate. Healthcare, education, and entertainment professionals called the expanded policy an invasion of privacy. Some users said they would cancel their Zoom accounts, while others demanded Zoom change its terms. And then Zoom's CEO Eric Yuan said something that should have been a bigger headline. Zoom CEO Eric Yuan reiterated that Zoom would gain user consent for any AI training, adding that the March terms of service changes were a mistake. We had a process failure internally that we will fix. A process failure, that's what Zoom called giving themselves perpetual rights to your meeting content. A process failure. Zoom walked back on its updated terms of service and called its publication a process failure after drawing flack for seeking access to users' data for AI training without scope for consent. They updated the terms again, twice, within a week. But privacy advocates weren't satisfied, because even the revised terms raised a problem that no amount of corporate blog posts could fully resolve. Here's the problem that Zoom never actually solved. The host of the meeting controls whether AI features are enabled. Non-administrator meeting members are notified about data sharing policies and given the option to accept or leave the meeting. Accept or leave. Your boss enables Zoom's AI meeting summary. You join the call. A notification appears telling you AI is processing this meeting. Your options are agree or leave the meeting your job requires you to attend. That is not consent. That is coercion with a notification attached. There's likely a power imbalance between the meeting admin or organizer and the non-administrator participants. Likely. That is the understatement of 2023. Here's what I want to be honest about. Zoom is still the standard for professional video calls. Nothing has fully replaced it. And the AI features, when you choose to use them, are genuinely useful. But useful and trustworthy are two different things. The one thing I changed about how I use Zoom is my microphone setup. If you work remotely and Zoom calls are part of your professional life, a USB microphone with a physical hardware mute button is one of the most practical purchases you can make. Here's why it matters. A hardware mute cuts the microphone signal at the source, not in software, not through Zoom's controls, but physically. No software, no AI feature, no setting your host enabled can unmute a microphone that's physically disconnected from the signal. I'll link the one I use in the description. It costs under $100, works with any computer, and has a large physical mute button you can hit mid-meeting without hunting through menus. For anyone whose job puts them on Zoom calls they didn't fully consent to be recorded, it's the one control you have that Zoom can't override. After all of it, the encryption lie, the Facebook data sharing, the Zoom bombing, the AI terms of service scandal, where does Zoom stand in 2026? Still standing. Still the default tool for professional video calls. Still in hospitals, schools, law firms, and therapy offices. The AI features are still active. Meeting summary is still available to any host who enables it. When it's enabled, every participant's words are still being processed. Zoom's terms now state, Zoom does not use any of your audio, video, chat, screen sharing attachments or other communications like customer content to train Zoom or third-party artificial intelligence models. That's the current language. Better than 2023. Clearer than before. Zoom says it will not use audio, video, or chat customer content to train its artificial intelligence models without your consent. Though the terms also say Zoom reserves the right to do just that. Will not, though reserves the right to. Two clauses, pointing in opposite directions, in the same document. And the power imbalance between hosts and participants, the core structural problem that no terms of service revision has addressed, remains exactly as it was when the scandal broke in August 2023. Here's the lesson of the Zoom story. Every other company on this channel, Facebook, Google, WhatsApp, Norton, LinkedIn, all of them had a product people chose to use. You downloaded it, you signed up, you made a decision. Zoom is different. The COVID-19 pandemic made Zoom the go-to platform for remote work and learning, as well as happy hours, parties, weddings, holiday celebrations, live performances, and political campaigns. You didn't choose Zoom. The pandemic chose it for you. Your employer chose it, your school chose it, your doctor's office chose it. By the time anyone thought to ask whether Zoom was trustworthy, it was already carrying the most sensitive conversations of their lives. Medical diagnoses, mental health sessions, legal strategy, financial advice, job interviews, performance reviews, salary negotiations, all of it on a platform that had lied about its encryption since 2016, was caught sending data to Facebook in 2020, had 500,000 accounts sold on the dark web, and quietly gave itself AI training rights to meeting content in 2023 before walking it back under public pressure. The world was trapped in a pandemic, and the tool it was forced to use turned that captive audience into a business opportunity. That's not a scandal in the traditional sense. There's no single moment of obvious wrongdoing, no whistleblower confession, no dramatic congressional hearing, just a long series of quiet decisions made while everyone was too distracted surviving a pandemic to read a terms of service update. And when they finally noticed, they couldn't leave, because their boss, their doctor, and their kid's school were all still on Zoom. Drop in the comments, did your workplace use Zoom during COVID? Did you know about the encryption claims when you trusted it with your most sensitive calls? And subscribe, because next we're covering Amazon Alexa, the smart speaker sitting in your home that Amazon employees were actively listening to, and the recording that never got deleted even after you asked Amazon to erase it.